The Time's stellar convergence time station floated in the black void like a metal flower. Its massive arms stretched out in all directions, each one designed to welcome different kinds of life from across the galaxy. Ships of every shape and size docked at its ports, bringing visitors who breathed different air and lived under different suns. Marcus Chen stood at the viewing window of the human transport ship, watching the station grow larger as they approached. Behind his dark visor, his eyes took in every detail. This was it, the moment humanity had worked toward for decades. First contact with the Galactic Coalition. He looked down at his suit. The thick black material covered every inch of his body. Heavy gloves protected his hands. Metal plates reinforced his chest and back. The helmet completely covered his head, with only a dark visor to show where his face might be. To him, it felt normal. To everyone else on the station, he knew it would look strange. The docking tube connected with a soft thud. Marcus picked up his diplomatic case and walked toward the airlock. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. Each step echoed in the empty corridor. The station's air smelled different when he stepped inside. Clean and sharp, with hints of chemicals he could not name. The gravity felt lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel like he might float away. His suit adjusted automatically, keeping him stable. The main reception area opened up before him like a cathedral. The ceiling stretched up so high he could barely see it. Beings of all kinds moved through the space, talking in voices that ranged from musical chimes to deep rumbles that he felt in his chest. Near the center of the room, a group of tall, lizard-like creatures stood in formation. Their skin looked like polished metal, with natural armor plates covering their bodies. These had to be the Zelthani. Marcus had studied their files for months, proud warriors who valued strength above all else. To his left, crystalline beings that looked like walking gemstones moved in perfect harmony. Their forms caught the station's lights and threw rainbows across the walls. The Vorthak, he remembered. They communicated through sound waves that made the air itself sing. Floating orbs of colored gas drifted overhead. The Nimari lived inside those containment fields, their true forms too delicate for normal atmosphere. They moved like living clouds, shifting and swirling as they thought. All of them stopped to stare when Marcus entered the room. His suit's sensors picked up the attention immediately. Heart rates increased, body temperatures changed, chemical signatures shifted. The entire room was reacting to his presence. A tall Zelthani female stepped forward from her group. Her armor gleamed silver and blue, and her eyes were bright yellow with vertical pupils. Scars marked her face and arms, telling stories of battles won. This had to be Zara Thissis, the war leader turned diplomat that the briefing files had mentioned. She looked Marcus up and down, her gaze stopping at his heavy boots, his thick gloves, the dark visor that hid his face. When she spoke, her voice carried across the room like a blade cutting silk. "So this is what humans look like," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Wrapped in metal like a gift no one wants to open." Laughter rippled through the gathered beings. The Vorthak chimed in harmony, their crystal forms flashing brighter. The Nimari clouds swirled faster, colors shifting to patterns. Marcus's suit translated as amusement. Marcus said nothing. He had been warned this might happen. The coalition respected strength, and his appearance might be seen as weakness. But he had his orders. Stay calm. Be diplomatic. Show humanity's best face. "Look at all that armor," another Zelthani called out. "What kind of warrior needs so much protection just to walk around?" "Maybe they are afraid of our air," a third voice added. "Too weak to breathe like real beings." Marcus's suit monitored his vital signs. Blood pressure normal, heart rate steady. The training was holding. He had faced worse than words during his military service. This was just another mission. Zara Thissis circled him slowly, like a predator studying prey. "We heard rumors about your species," she said. "That you come from a world of ice and poison. That you cannot survive without your machines." She gestured at his suit with one clawed hand. "I see the rumors were true." More laughter. Marcus noticed that not all the beings in the room were joining in. Some watched quietly, waiting to see what would happen. The smart ones, he thought. The ones who knew better than to judge too quickly. Your ship barely made it to our station, Zara, this is continued. Your technology is so primitive, we had to guide you in by hand, and now you stand before us wrapped in crude metal, hiding your face like a criminal. She leaned closer. Tell me, human. What exactly do you think your people can offer the coalition? The question hung in the air like smoke. Marcus felt the weight of it, knew that his answer would shape everything that came after. This was the test. Not just of him, but of all humanity. Billions of people back on Earth were depending on what happened in this room. He activated his suit's external speakers, making sure everyone could hear his voice clearly. I come seeking partnership, he said. His words were calm and measured, showing no trace of anger or fear. Humanity has much to offer. Our technology may be different from yours, but it has served us well. We have resources, knowledge, and a desire to work together for the good of all. Zara, this is snorted. Resources? What resources could a world of weaklings provide? Knowledge? What could primitives who need armor just to breathe possibly teach us? She gestured to the other beings around the room. Look around you, human. See true evolution. The Vorthok need no protection from their environment. The Nimari have transcended physical form entirely. My own people were born with armor that makes your crude metal look like paper. Marcus's sensors detected increased attention from the other species. They were waiting to see how he would respond to the challenge. Some seemed genuinely curious. Others appeared to be enjoying the show. We adapt to survive, Marcus said simply. Just as you have adapted to your worlds, we have adapted to ours. Adapted? Zara Thisis laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You mean you built machines to do what your bodies could not? You wrapped yourselves in metal because you were too weak to grow your own. That is not adaptation. That is admission of failure. The room fell silent. Even the Vorthok's musical chiming stopped. This was the moment when things could go very wrong. Marcus felt the weight of first contact pressing down on him like the gravity of a dying star. But he had been chosen for this mission for a reason. He had faced impossible odds before, and found a way through. This time would be no different. The formal diplomatic meeting took place in a great hall, with walls made of some kind of clear material. Outside, the stars moved slowly as the station rotated. Marcus sat at a curved table with representatives from dozens of worlds, each one adapted to their home in different ways. The Zelthani delegation took up one entire side of the table. Their natural armor clinked softly when they moved, like wind chimes made of metal. Zara Thisis sat in the center, her yellow eyes watching everything with the focus of a born hunter. Across from them, the Vorthak had grown special crystal formations that let them interface directly with the station's computers. Data flowed through their bodies like light through glass, making them living networks of information. The Nimari floated above the table in their containment fields. Their gaseous forms shifted constantly, creating patterns that Marcus's suit translated into complex mathematical equations. They thought in pure numbers, solving problems faster than most computers. Marcus sat between two empty chairs. The human delegation was small by choice. Earth's leaders had decided that sending too many people might look aggressive. Better to send one well-trained diplomat than an army of bureaucrats. Trade agreements scrolled across holographic displays. Resource allocation charts showed which worlds needed what materials. Transportation routes traced lines between star systems like a web of light. The negotiations had been going on for hours, and Marcus could see the frustration building around the table. His suit's sensors picked up increased stress hormones from several species, body languages that indicated growing anger, chemical signals that meant trouble was coming. The human proposal is interesting, said one of the Vorthak, its crystalline voice ringing like a bell. But their shipping capacity is limited. Their fastest ships would take months to reach our outer colonies. Months, Zara Thisis repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Our courier ships make the same journey in weeks. Our heavy transports could carry 10 times their cargo in half the time. She leaned forward, her claws tapping against the table. What exactly are we gaining from this partnership? Marcus pulled up humanity's resource surveys on the holographic display. Earth has rare metals that are difficult to find in this part of the galaxy. Our manufacturing techniques are different from yours, which means we can create things you might not have thought of. And we have something that cannot be measured in cargo holds or travel time. Which is? Asked a Nimari, its colors shifting to patterns of doubt. Experience? Marcus said. My people have survived on a world that tried to kill them every day for millions of years. We have learned to adapt, to overcome, to find solutions when there seemed to be none. Laughter erupted from the Zelthani side of the table. Zarathisis slammed her hand down, making the surface ring like a struck drum. Experience? She said, her voice dripping with mockery. You mean hiding behind machines and metal suits? That is not experience, human. That is cowardice. Other beings around the table began to murmur. Marcus heard the Vorthak chiming in frequencies that his suit translated as agreement. Some of the Nimari changed to colors that meant approval of Zarathis's words. My people have fought in 100 wars across 50 systems. Zarathisis continued, standing up from her chair. Her full height made her tower over the table. We have conquered worlds with nothing but our natural weapons and our courage. We do not hide behind barriers when we face danger. She pointed one clawed finger at Marcus. Look at yourself. Wrapped in metal from head to toe. Afraid to show your face. Afraid to breathe the same air as the rest of us. How can we trust a species that is too weak to survive without artificial protection? Marcus felt the attention of the entire room focus on him like a weapon. This was the moment his trainers had prepared him for, the test that would determine whether humanity had a future in the galaxy or would be left alone among the stars. My suit serves its purpose, he said calmly. Just as your armor serves yours. My armor is part of me, Zarathisis snapped. Grown from my own body, stronger than any metal your people have ever made. It cannot be removed because it is not separate from who I am. Your suit is a crutch for a crippled species. The other Zelthani began to stand as well, their movements synchronized like soldiers preparing for battle. Marcus's suit detected elevated stress levels from multiple sources. The situation was escalating beyond diplomatic norms. Perhaps, said one of the other Zelthani, the human should prove that his species deserves our respect. Remove that metal shell and show us what you really are underneath. Yes, Zarathisis said, her voice getting louder. Take off that primitive armor and stand before us as your ancestors did. Show us that humans can face the galaxy without hiding behind machines. The hall fell silent. Marcus could hear the soft humming of the station's life support systems, the distant vibrations of ships docking at the outer arms. His suit's sensors showed him the biological reactions of everyone in the room. Fear from some, excitement from others, curiosity from the ones who stayed quiet. You want to see what humanity really is? Marcus asked. His voice was still calm, but something in it made several beings step back from the table. I want to see proof that your species is more than clever children playing with tools they do not understand, Zarathisis replied. Remove your suit. Show us that you can stand in this room like a real being, instead of hiding like a frightened animal. Marcus looked around the table. The Vorthak were flashing brighter, their excitement making them glow like living stars. The Nimari had changed to colors his suit could not translate, patterns too complex for the translation matrix to understand. Even the quiet species that had not spoken were leaning forward in their chairs. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who were counting on him to make this work, about the future that hung in the balance of this single moment. Then he thought about the real reason for his suit, about what would happen if these beings knew the truth about humanity, about the choice his people had made long ago to hide their true nature from a galaxy that was not ready for it. Very well, Marcus said, standing up from his chair. You want to see what humans are without their technology. You want to understand why we developed these suits. He reached up and touched the release mechanism on his helmet. I will show you. Warning lights began to flash around the room. Automated systems started broadcasting alerts in languages Marcus had never heard. The station's environmental controls shifted into emergency mode, pumping in fresh air and adjusting temperature settings. Zara laughed, thinking it was all theater. "Even your machines are afraid," she said. "What kind of weakling needs so many warnings just to remove his helmet?" Marcus paused with his hands on the release controls. For just a moment, he wondered if there was another way. If he could find words that would make them understand, without showing them the truth. But the damage was already done. The challenge had been made in front of representatives from across the galaxy. There was no backing down now without confirming every negative assumption about humanity. "As you wish," Marcus said, and he began to remove his suit. The helmet came off first. Marcus set it on the table with a soft thud, revealing an ordinary human face. Brown hair, dark eyes, skin that looked perfectly normal. Zara leaned forward, expecting to see something strange or weak. Instead, she saw features that could have belonged to any predator species. Strong jaw, eyes set forward for depth perception, teeth that were clearly designed for eating meat. But it was just a face. Nothing that explained the warnings still echoing through the hall. "This is what you were hiding?" she asked, disappointment clear in her voice. "You look like any other mammalian species. Less impressive than most." Marcus said nothing. He started working on the seals of his gloves. The clasps made small clicking sounds as they released. When he pulled the first glove off, steam rose from his exposed hand. The temperature sensors around the room began beeping. The Nimari closest to Marcus shifted their gas patterns to cooler colors, their forms moving away from him without their conscious thought. "Environmental alert," announced the station's computer in a flat, mechanical voice. "Temperature variance detected. Adjusting climate controls." Zara frowned. "Why is your hand so hot?" Marcus flexed his fingers, watching steam continue to rise from his skin. "This is normal human body temperature," he said calmly. 37 degrees Celsius. We run hot compared to most species." He pulled off the second glove. More steam. More beeping from the sensors. The air circulation systems kicked into higher gear, working to maintain the room's careful environmental balance. "That is, warm," admitted one of the Vorthak. Their crystal bodies were designed for much cooler temperatures. "But not dangerous," Marcus smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "This is just the beginning." He reached for the seals on his chest armor. The thick black plates that covered his torso had dozens of connections, each one monitored by the suit's computer systems. As he began disconnecting them, warning lights flashed brighter. "Atmospheric alert," the station announced. "Chemical variance detected, increasing air filtration." "What chemicals?" asked a Nimari, its colors shifting to patterns of concern. "The ones I breathe out," Marcus said. He continued removing the chest plates, revealing a simple shirt underneath. But as more of his body was exposed to the station's air, the environmental systems began working harder. Carbon dioxide readings spiked. The air scrubbers went into overdrive, trying to process the sudden increase in waste gases. For humans, it was normal breathing. For the delicate Nimari, it was poison. Zara stood up, confusion replacing mockery on her face. "Your breathing is toxic?" "To 3 different species in this room, yes." Marcus removed the last of the chest plates. His shirt was damp with sweat, and more steam rose from his exposed arms. "My exhalations contain carbon dioxide levels that would kill a Nimari in minutes. The moisture I release carries trace chemicals that are harmless to humans, but deadly to others." The room's atmosphere processors were running at full power now, cycling the air faster than they were designed to handle. Red warning lights painted the walls in bloody colors. But it was when Marcus began removing the leg armor that the real alerts started. "Biohazard detected," the computer announced. "All personnel maintain safe distance from uncontained human." Marcus stood up, his legs now free of the heavy plates that had hidden their true shape. Through his simple clothes, his muscle definition was clearly visible. The sensors around the room began scanning his body mass, bone density, and physical capabilities. The results appeared on the holographic displays for everyone to see. Bone density 3 times galactic average. Muscle fiber efficiency ratings that put him in the same category as siege equipment. Grip strength measured in thousands of pounds per square inch. Bite force that could crack Vorthak crystal. Zarathus's stared at the numbers in disbelief. These readings cannot be correct. They are, Marcus said. He took a step forward, and his weight registered on the floor sensors. The readings appeared on the displays, showing mass distribution that should have belonged to a creature twice his size. My people evolved on a world with gravity 1.5 times what you consider normal, he explained, taking another step. Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen, which is toxic to most species. Our weather includes storms that would level your cities. Our oceans are filled with predators that hunt in packs. The environmental systems were struggling now. Warning symbols flashed across every screen. The temperature in Marcus's immediate area had risen by several degrees just from his body heat. Chemical detectors were screaming alerts about dangerous substances in the air. Our food chain includes creatures that weigh tons and hunt with claws and teeth. Marcus continued, his voice carrying clearly over the alarms. We learned to make fire and tools and weapons because our world tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. He looked directly at Zarathus's, his predator's eyes focusing on her with the intensity of something that had spent its entire evolutionary history hunting or being hunted. This suit, he said, gesturing to the armor scattered around his feet, is not to protect me from you. It is to protect you from me. The silence that followed was broken only by the frantic humming of the station's overtaxed environmental systems. The beings around the table stared at the readings on their displays, trying to process what they were seeing. A creature that could survive in conditions that would kill most galactic species. Physical capabilities that classified him as a living weapon. Chemical emissions that required constant air filtration to keep him from accidentally poisoning his neighbors. And he had been holding back this entire time. You see, Marcus said, beginning to put his gloves back on. Humanity did not develop this technology because we are weak. We developed it because we learned that our natural state is incompatible with civilized galactic society. The gloves sealed with soft clicks, immediately reducing the chemical readings. The temperature around him began to drop as his suit's thermal regulators came back online. We wear these suits so we can sit at the same table as you without killing you by accident, he explained, reaching for his helmet. We learned your languages and studied your cultures so we could interact safely with species that evolution never prepared us to meet. Zarathus's watched in stunned silence as Marcus sealed his helmet and became the primitive armored figure she had been mocking moments before. The environmental alerts began to quiet as his containment systems came back online. We came here seeking partnership, Marcus said, his voice once again filtered through the suit's speakers. We thought that if we could prove ourselves worthy, if we could show that we had learned to control our nature, then maybe we could find a place among the stars with beings who had evolved under gentler skies. He picked up his diplomatic case, preparing to leave. But if our efforts to be safe are seen as weakness, if our restraint is mistaken for cowardice, then perhaps we misjudged what the galaxy wants from us. The room remained silent except for the gradually quieting environmental systems. Marcus had shown them the truth about humanity. And now they had to decide what to do with that knowledge. The silence stretched on for long moments. Around the table, beings who had been laughing minutes before now stared at their displays with expressions of shock and growing understanding. The numbers did not lie. The environmental readings told a story that none of them had expected. A Vorthak delegate spoke first, its crystalline voice barely above a whisper. Your bone density readings indicate adaptation to extreme gravitational stress. Your muscle fiber composition suggests a prey-predator environment far beyond normal parameters. The atmospheric requirements, added an Imari, its gaseous form swirling with colors of deep concern. 21% oxygen would be immediately fatal to most coalition species. And you consider this normal? Oh, Marcus stood quietly in his resealed suit, watching their faces as understanding dawned. These were some of the most intelligent beings in the galaxy, and he could see them putting together pieces of a puzzle they had never imagined. Your physical capabilities, said another Vorthak, consulting its internal databases. Grip strength of over 1,000 pounds per square inch. That is sufficient to crush most Coalition standard equipment. Your jaw pressure could crack our defensive crystals. Zara had not moved from where she stood. Her natural armor, which she had been so proud of moments before, suddenly seemed thin and fragile. She was a warrior, trained from birth to evaluate threats. Everything about the human's revealed physiology screamed danger. You move with gravity 1.5 times what we consider heavy world standard, she said slowly. Your reaction times, your coordination, your muscle memory, all adapted for a world where anything less than perfection meant death. Most Coalition worlds have gravity between 0.6 and 0.9 standard, Marcus confirmed. Your environmental parameters, your atmospheric compositions, your temperature ranges, all of them would be considered extremely mild by human standards. A younger Zelthani delegate leaned forward, his voice uncertain. The chemical emissions. Your natural respiration produces compounds that are toxic to multiple species. How do you exist in such an environment? We evolved alongside those compounds, Marcus explained. What is poison to you is normal atmosphere to us. Our lungs process gases that would burn through your respiratory systems. Our skin secretes chemicals that would cause allergic shock in most Coalition species. The displays updated with more detailed scans. Marcus's cardiovascular system showed adaptations for extreme physical stress. His nervous system displayed reaction times that put him in the same category as the galaxy's fastest predators. His skeletal structure was built to handle impacts that would shatter most Coalition species. This is why you developed the containment suits, said a Namari, understanding flooding its translated voice. Not as protection for yourselves, but as protection for everyone else. The environmental warnings, the atmospheric alerts, added a Vorthak. They are not malfunctions. They are accurate readings of what an uncontained human represents to station safety. Marcus nodded. Every human facility, every ship, every diplomatic site has to be specially equipped to handle our presence. Air scrubbers to process our exhalations. Thermal regulators to manage our body heat. Structural reinforcements to handle our weight and strength. Zara finally found her voice. The primitive technology we mocked. Your ships, your equipment. They are not crude because you lack sophistication. They are overbuilt because they have to survive in conditions that would destroy ours. A human transport ship has to be able to land on worlds where the gravity would crush your vessels, Marcus confirmed. Our tools have to function in atmospheric compositions that would corrode your metals. Our weapons have to be capable of stopping predators that your people would classify as walking siege engines. The room fell quiet again as the implications sank in. These beings came from worlds of gentle rains and mild temperatures. They had evolved in environments where cooperation was possible because survival was not a constant struggle. They had built their civilization on principles of harmony because their worlds allowed such luxuries. Humans came from a place where nothing was gentle, where every day was a battle against a planet that had spent millions of years trying to eliminate them, where strength and adaptability were not advantages but basic requirements for survival. The restraint, whispered a Namari. You have been holding back this entire time. Every human who enters Coalition space undergoes months of training, Marcus said. We learn to move carefully, to speak softly, to control our natural reactions. We practice walking in low gravity without accidentally launching ourselves into walls. We study atmospheric compositions so we know which species cannot safely share our air. When you shook hands with the Vorthak delegate at the beginning of the meeting, said Zara, her voice growing quiet with realization, you could have crushed his manipulator appendage without thinking about it. The suit has pressure limiters, Marcus explained. It prevents me from applying more than safe levels of force during normal interactions. All of our diplomatic equipment includes similar safeguards. 2. A Vorthak delegate consulted its databases again. Our files indicate that humans have been developing this containment technology for over a century. Long before first contact protocols were established, you were preparing for safe interaction with other species before you even knew we existed. We learned early that our natural state was incompatible with most forms of life, Marcus said. When we finally developed spaceflight and began exploring, we found worlds full of creatures that would be considered delicate by our standards. We realized that if we wanted to interact with galactic civilization, we would need to find ways to be safe neighbors. The environmental systems had finally returned to normal operations. The warning lights stopped flashing. The chemical detectors quieted their alarms. Marcus's suit was doing its job, containing the walking environmental hazard that was human physiology. "You came here seeking partnership," said Zara Thissis, her voice heavy with understanding. "But you could have come seeking conquest. With your physical capabilities, your environmental adaptations, your technological sophistication built for extreme conditions. Conquest was never our goal," Marcus replied. "We have one world. One system. We do not need more territory, because our population is adapted to conditions that most species cannot survive. We sought membership in the coalition because we believed in cooperation between different forms of life. Instead, we mocked your efforts to be safe," said a Nimari, its colors shifting to patterns of deep regret. "We mistook your restraint for weakness." Marcus looked around the table at beings who were just beginning to understand what humanity represented. A species powerful enough to be a threat to everyone in the galaxy, but advanced enough to choose cooperation over dominance. People who had learned to be gentle despite coming from a world that had never shown them mercy. "The question now," Marcus said, "is whether the coalition wants neighbors who have chosen to limit themselves for the sake of peace, or whether you prefer species that naturally fit your environmental parameters." The weight of that choice settled over the room like a heavy blanket. They were looking at the future of galactic civilization, and the decision they made in the next few minutes would echo across the stars for generations to come. Marcus closed his diplomatic case with a soft click. The sound seemed to echo through the great hall, cutting through the heavy silence that had fallen over the assembled delegates. He looked around the table one last time, his dark visor reflecting the faces of beings who were still processing what they had learned. "I came here with hope," he said, his filtered voice carrying to every corner of the room. "My people spent decades preparing for this moment. We learned your languages, studied your cultures, built technology to make ourselves safe neighbors. We believed that intelligence and good intentions could overcome any differences between species." He stood up, and several delegates instinctively moved back. Even sealed in his containment suit, knowing what he truly was made his presence feel different, more dangerous, more real. "But if our efforts to coexist peacefully are seen as signs of weakness," Marcus continued, "if our choice to restrain ourselves is mistaken for inability to defend ourselves, then perhaps we misjudged what the galaxy wants from us." "Wait," said one of the Vorthak, its crystalline form flashing urgent patterns. "There has been a misunderstanding. The mockery, the challenges. We did not know. We could not have known what you truly were." Marcus paused in his preparation to leave. "And if you had known from the beginning? Would that have changed anything? Would you have treated us with respect? Or would you have feared us instead of dismissing us?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Around the table, delegates exchanged glances that needed no translation. The honest answer was uncomfortable for everyone involved. "Fear might have been the wiser response," admitted a Nimari, its colors shifting to patterns of deep regret. "But it would not have led to partnership either." 8.5. "That is the problem," Marcus said. "The galaxy has no framework for dealing with species like humanity. You encounter beings who are stronger than you, and you either submit or fight. You meet those who are weaker, and you either protect or exploit. But what do you do with people who are strong enough to dominate you but choose not to?" Zara Thissis had been silent through this exchange, her warrior's mind working through implications and possibilities. Finally, she spoke. "You could have revealed your nature differently," she said. "Shown your strength gradually, let us adjust to the idea of what humans represent. Why did you choose this moment, this dramatic demonstration?" Marcus turned to face her directly. "Because you demanded it. You challenged my people's worthiness based on appearances. You mocked our technology because it looked primitive to you. You questioned our right to exist in civilized space. His voice remained calm, but something in it made the air feel colder. I gave you exactly what you asked for. The truth of it hit Zara this is like a physical blow. She had pushed for this confrontation, demanded this revelation. Everything that had happened was the result of her own pride and prejudice. And now you are leaving, she said, the words coming out like an admission of defeat. The coalition has made its position clear, Marcus replied. You respect strength when it comes with natural armor and crystalline perfection. You value power when it fits your expectations of what evolution should produce, but when that strength comes wrapped in containment suits and diplomatic protocols, it becomes something to mock. He walked toward the exit, his heavy boots making measured sounds on the station's metal floors. Each step seemed to drive home the finality of what was happening. The galaxy is vast, Marcus said, without turning around. Humanity will find its own path among the stars. Perhaps we will discover species that value restraint over dominance. Maybe we will meet civilizations that understand the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. The threats from the Rim, Zara this is called out desperately. The dark fleets that have been raiding outer colonies. You could help us fight them. Your people. Your capabilities. Marcus stopped walking but did not turn around. And when those threats are gone? When the emergency is over and you no longer need our particular talents? What then? Do we go back to being primitives in crude armor? Do we return to being objects of mockery until the next crisis requires our intervention? The silence that followed was answer enough. I thought so, Marcus said. As he reached the exit, emergency alerts began flashing throughout the station. Not environmental warnings this time, but security alerts. Long-range sensors had detected something approaching from the outer rim, ships moving in formations that no coalition species used. The very threats that Zara Thisis had just mentioned. Human vessel, came the urgent voice of the station commander over the communication system. We have multiple unknown contacts approaching at high speed. Request immediate assistance. Marcus paused at the doorway. Through his suit's sensors, he could see the tactical displays updating with incoming threat assessments. Dozens of ships, heavily armed, moving with military precision toward the station, and the defenseless diplomatic vessels docked there. The coalition delegates looked at their own displays with growing alarm. Their ships were not designed for combat. Most carried minimal defensive systems, relying on diplomatic immunity and coalition protection for safety. The nearest coalition defense fleet is 6 hours away, reported a Vorthak, accessing the tactical network. Those raiders will be here in 20 minutes. All eyes turned to Marcus, still standing at the exit. His ship was small, designed for diplomacy rather than warfare, but it was human-built, constructed to survive in the kind of hostile environment that had forged his species. You see, Marcus said quietly, this is the other thing about species that evolve on death worlds. We do not just develop the ability to survive. We develop the ability to protect those who cannot protect themselves. He looked back at the assembled delegates one last time. But protection, like partnership, requires mutual respect. It requires trust. It requires the understanding that strength used in service of others is not the same as strength used for conquest. The tactical displays showed the raiders getting closer. Their weapons were powering up, targeting systems locking onto the defenseless diplomatic ships. Choose, Marcus said simply. Do you want neighbors who have learned to be gentle despite their nature? Or do you want to face the galaxy's dangers alone? Zara Thisis looked at the approaching enemy fleet, then at the human who could walk away and leave them all to die. Her pride warred with her pragmatism, her prejudice against the growing understanding of what humanity truly represented. Finally, she spoke. We choose partnership. Her voice was quiet but clear. We choose to learn from our mistakes. We choose to respect those who choose restraint over dominance. Marcus nodded once. Then perhaps, he said, it is time you saw what humans look like when we stop holding back. He activated his ship's communication system. This is Ambassador Chen to all human vessels in the system. We have a situation that requires immediate response. Authorization code Alpha 7-7. Full containment protocols are suspended. I repeat, containment protocols are suspended. The change in his voice was immediate and terrifying. Gone was the careful diplomatic tone, replaced by something harder, colder, more focused. This was not the voice of a restrained human trying to be safe for others. This was the voice of a predator from a death world. And it had work to do. As Marcus left the hall to prepare for battle, Zara Thisis realized that humanity had just given the galaxy a choice between two futures. The one where they faced their enemies with human allies at their side, and the one where they faced those enemies alone, having driven away the most dangerous friends they could ever have hoped to find. The next 20 minutes would determine which future the galaxy chose to live in.